Welcome to Breakaway. Today's guest is a small-town Kentucky boy who found his way to stardom as the captain of the Kentucky Wildcat football team. He's one of many athletes that's unafraid and unashamed to push back on political culture in sports. We'll chat about Texas and Oklahoma looking to join the SEC, how name, image, and likeness laws will affect NCAA athletes, reminisce about our guest playing days, and much, much more. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. Welcome to Breakaway. Today's guest is a former captain linebacker at the University of Kentucky. He's sitting right there. He's also a part of the UK Sports Network and Kentucky Sports Radio. Kash Daniel, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me out here.
Well, and of course we got producer Brian here as well. Good to see you.
Pumped to be back, John.
Let's talk about the SEC. What the heck is going on there? Because Oklahoma and Texas, they want to join the party.
They want to join the best conference in college football and college athletics as a whole. You know, when you look at year in and year out what the SEC does, not only in college football, college baseball, college basketball, the list goes on. The women's volleyball national champions just so happened to be the University of Kentucky Wildcats this past year. So,
let's go.
You know, with everything, not just football, the SEC is the place to be if you want to play at the highest level of college athletics. And so Texas and Oklahoma finally realized that. And now they're wanting to join the party. This
feels like a super conference now, too,
Absolutely,
because it's like it seems unfair to everybody else.
Yeah, well, Kash, do you think that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be ready for the SEC in 2025?
Well, I mean, kind of like you were talking backstage before the show started. I think that they have a really good chance to be able to be acclimated by the time that they enter the SEC because of that 2025 date. It's going to take a lot of time for those guys to get in that kind of SEC environment and play those SEC type teams week in and week out, and not just when they play them in the college football playoff each and every year.
Yeah, because I mean, Oklahoma's defense is really not something they're known for, and then Texas over the last 6-7 years, they're not the program they used to be. No. So frankly, I'm a little unsure how they're going to do.
Texas is getting roasted on and off the field.
Yeah.
They really are.
They really are. But
Matthew McConaughey is the best thing they got going for them.
That's true.
Yeah, but when you look at it from a grand scheme of things, when you look at the Big 12, what is the thing that the Big 12 is noticeable for? They're noticeable because they put numbers up on the offensive side of the ball that absolutely kills everybody else across the country. But what is the downfall to that? They also give up a lot of points. Not just Oklahoma, not just Texas that can score a lot of points. The entire Big 12 can score points, but can they keep people out of the end zone? And when you transition to the SEC, you got to be able to keep dudes out the end zone because no matter how high power your offense is, no matter how fast you can move, how efficient you can move the ball down the field, those SEC defenses are built around being able to stop the pass and stop the run.
Yes, it's hard-nosed football, too. Like every single game matters, right? Compared to what like we've seen in the past, now you have these powerhouses that are joining this powerhouse conference. Yep. Every single game matters, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every game matters. And I think that when you look at from last year with how COVID happened and you got the all-SEC schedule, me personally, I kind of like that. You know, just because every week it's week in and week out, best competition on best competitions. There's no tune-up games. There's no, maybe a possibility of a trap game, playing somebody outside of the conference or, something like that. So being able to come in and play an all-SEC schedule, that's the best competition you're going to get. And I think that's why the SEC ratings on TV are the best. I think that's why, overall from a brand's perspective, each SEC school is up there because they play in the SEC.
How do you think you'd rank the SEC right now, though? Right now, and then we're going to have you rank it once you think.
I mean, literally, right here's the NFL. Right there's about the SEC.
You're telling me this is like the SEC is going to be like AAA?
Yeah, it's the farm league for the NFL. That's exactly what it is.
So you feel like there's going to be constant, like when we see the NFL draft, SEC guys.
That's what you've seen the past, 10, 12 years.
It's not going to change.
It's not going to change at all. And when you add teams like Texas and Oklahoma, with talks of maybe Clemson and Florida State maybe added to the mix, you're going to see nothing but SEC school kids get drafted. And it's going to be actually kind of unfair to see, when you look down the board, SEC, maybe an ACC guy here and there. But majority of the time when you read the NFL draft board, you're going to see SEC guys get taken first.
So what's the positives and negatives of this then? Because you have this big conference. You also got the Pac-12 that's thinking about teaming up with these other conferences too. Like it's going to affect all of college football. It might change the college football playoff too. So what are the positives and negatives of this?
Well, the positive side is that you're adding two powerhouse teams, two powerhouse, historical football powerhouse teams like Texas, like Oklahoma. And the downside of that, there's going to be a lot of travel in between that. Travel days, or you got the one Friday to get out there, you got to get acclimated. Then you got to go out there and play the next day. Perhaps with time changes, and things like that, I could see that being a problem with, traveling with their schedules and being able to, whether they're able to go to class that day, not go to class that day, or they bringing tutors with them, because at the end of the day, you're still a student athlete, and so you got to make sure that all your classes and everything's taken care of first. So like, for example, I know when we went to play Texas A&M, we would have our tutors that come with us on that Friday because we had to leave late Thursday just because to get acclimated with, the travel schedule and things like that. But, just from another positive side of things, it's going to make competition just so much better. I mean, you're going to see guys go to the Pro Bowl from all SEC schools. You're going to see guys go to the Reese's Senior Bowl from all SEC schools. And so it's going to be great to see Oklahoma and Texas come in, get acclimated with that SEC culture, and, go out and play some football every Saturday, some real football.
Some real football, that's what we love. But what do you think is going to be the toughest place to play at? Because now you have this powerhouse conference, and you got some tough competition when it comes to the fan bases.
Yeah, I still think you'll have your traditional SEC places that'll be the toughest environments to play in. So places like the Swamp down in Florida, Kyle Field at Texas A&M, that was probably the loudest stadium I've ever played in. You can barely hear yourself think. Bryant-Denny Stadium with Alabama, just because of the rich traditions that Alabama brings each and every year. That was personally my favorite place that I got to play. So you go to Tennessee, you got Neyland Stadium that's built and designed to keep noise in. I think that Texas and Oklahoma is going to have to step up their fan base on that aspect, I believe.
And Cash, 2018, you played with Josh Allen, who's now with the Jags.
I did.
That season he had 17 sacks, you had 1 sack. What kept you from catching up to him?
Josh Allen, that's the reason why he's a 7th-round pick, and I'm here talking to you guys today. He's in camp and I'm not. So he was that guy right there. He's Superman, and just to see the way that Josh transformed from the time that I arrived on campus. He was only a semester ahead of me. I graduated high school early and got up to Lexington the spring of 2016. So he had just got off his true freshman year. Just to see, I still have old pictures of me and him in the weight room going in and out every day to try to get some extra work in. And at one point, believe it or not, I was bigger than Josh Allen.
No way.
At one point I was. But
well, the SEC is going to be crazy. Josh Allen's a monster, and then so is this SEC conference.
Absolutely.
It's going to be absolutely insane. Thanks for sharing your thoughts about that.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Next up on Breakaway, we're going to go one-on-one with Kash Daniel, hear a little bit more about his playing days. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. Welcome back. We're going one-on-one with former Kentucky Wildcat, Kash Daniel. Kash, you ready to rock?
Let's do it, baby.
All right, so like we talked about a little bit earlier, you're a small-town boy living in a Kentucky world.
Yep.
But you were an inspiration to so many young football players out there and made them really realize that it doesn't matter where you grow up, you can make it to the big time. You can be a captain of the Kentucky Wildcats. So thinking about that, looking back on your career, what does that really mean to you to know that the kids still look at you now that you're part of the broadcast team?
It means a lot, man. So for people that don't know, I'm from a small town in Eastern Kentucky called Paintsville, around 2,500, pushing 3,000 maybe. I graduated with, I believe, 50 kids in my graduating class. We're the 3rd smallest public school in the state of Kentucky.
Wow.
Out of that, we've had a bunch of former Division I players come out of Paintsville High School. My dad being one of them, played baseball and basketball at East Tennessee State. My uncle, his brother, played baseball at Western Kentucky. We had a Mr. Basketball, John Pelfrey, who played at the University of Kentucky. His numbers and jerseys hung in the rafters at Rupp Arena. Joey Couch played nose tackle, all SEC for Paintsville, played for the Kentucky Wildcats as well. And so I was the first kid to grant a Division I scholarship from Paintsville High School since 1987, I believe. And for me, not just to get a scholarship somewhere to go play, just to be able to go play college football at that highest of levels. It took a lot of work, and like you were saying, how no matter where you come from, anything's possible, but it's only possible if you put the work in behind it. You got to put the work in when nobody else is watching, and that was my calling, I guess, to be able to work when other people weren't willing to work. I could remember going to camps all over the tri-state area in West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio, and we wouldn't get back until 11 midnight.
Yep.
And my head coach at the time, thankfully, he lived in my neighborhood, and I would text him as I'm on my way back before he would go to bed. I'd say, "Hey, leave the key underneath your mat," and that was the weight room key. And so I'd drive over to this football field to get a good lift in, get a workout in on the field, and be able to outwork anybody in that area because I knew that across the country there's a kid that's out there working harder than me, and always in my mind I was saying I'm not going to be outworked today. So having the dream of wanting to accomplish certain things, yeah, that's great. You have those dreams and goals, but do you have the work ethic, the determination to put the work in to reach those goals? And so ultimately, you know, I wasn't the most athletic player, even in high school or in college, but the reason I was voted a 2-time captain at the University of Kentucky is because I refuse to be outworked by anybody. You may be faster than me, you may be stronger than me, you may be more athletic than me, but one thing you aren't going to do, you're not going to outwork me. You will quit before I do. That I can promise you. I'm going to know my playbook better than you. I'm going to be on time better than you. I'm not going to give anybody a hard time like you do.
Yeah.
I'm going to come in, do my work, do a little bit extra work than you do, and reap the rewards later.
Well, there's no doubt you've worked hard, and you found a lot of success there. And it was really fun to watch you at the University of Kentucky too. Brought the heat always as a linebacker. That's some position I could never play. I wasn't tough enough to be a linebacker. I was just a tight end.
It becomes a part of your life. It's got to be. Everybody says you got to have a couple loose screws to play football. You got to have a couple more loose screws to play defense, and then on top of that, a couple more to play linebacker.
Yeah. And then when you're at Kentucky, you were there from 2016 to 2019.
Right.
And while the campus was really divided, that was a tough time to be on a college university. You
Rough.
said that the team was unbelievably united. How were you guys able to stay together when there's so much turmoil going on campus and around the country?
Because all that mattered was the guys that were in that building. Then the only thing that mattered in that building, what was our end goal? And our end goal was to win the SEC East, to get to a bowl game, you know, and put ourselves as the University of Kentucky football as a brand up there with the likes of Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia. We want to get to that level. Now is our whole mindset. And so anything social or political that was ever in the locker room, I don't. For me personally, I don't ever remember one single time that politics and all that stuff was ever brought up because we were so focused on getting our work done and becoming better versions of ourselves, no matter who we believed in, what we believed in. We were there to work and we were there to win as a team.
At the same time, now that you're out of your playing days at Kentucky, you are unafraid to share your conservative values and your ideologies at all.
No.
So where does that come from? What empowered you to be a little bit more vocal?
I've always been a vocal person as a leader, you know, and to be a 2-time captain, you have to be vocal. In that role it's not the coolest role to be in because a lot of guys look to you to help make decisions for the betterment of the team, and sometimes some guys may not think it's for the betterment of the team. Sometimes they think you're coming after them, this, and that, and so you really have to know how to lead. And the person that taught me how to do that was my grandfather. My grandfather, he was the man among men, and he was our Johnson County Judge Executive ever since I was born. He got elected in 1998. Unfortunately died in October of 2019, and he served all up way until then. He was the president of the Kentucky Judges Association, did plenty of work with Howard Rogers, Ernie Fletcher, Matt Bevin, and so the leadership style that he embedded in me and my cousins and the rest of my family to, one, never be afraid or ashamed of where you come from. He would be in Frankfort and Town Hall and everybody stand up and say, I'm from so-and-so, I'm from Louisville, Lexington. He'd stand up and say, I'm Tucker Daniel, I'm from Muddy Branch, Kentucky. And everybody look around and be like, where the hell's Muddy Branch, Kentucky at? I'll tell you where it is, in the heart of Appalachia. It's where some of the greatest people and most hardworking people are. And to that value of being able to represent so many people, going back to the football side of things, that would kill to have the opportunity that I had, you know, that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to outwork everybody and why I wanted to have that kind of leadership and that kind of vocal point about myself, was that my granddad instilled that in me to say, hey, not everybody's going to be your friend. And if you want to be a leader, you got to be able to accept that not everybody's going to like what you say. But you just got to keep on keeping on.
Last question for you. One piece of advice you give kids out there that are watching you and say, I want to be the next Kash Daniel. I'm coming from a small town right now. Everyone's telling me I can't do it. What's the one piece of advice you'll give them?
Don't be the next me. Be the first you. Be the first you. Obviously, you take inspiration from different people. You know, like me when I was growing up, Ray Lewis is one of my biggest inspirations of all time. The way that he took leadership action, the way that he spoke to his teammates, the way that he spoke truth into his teammates' hearts and souls about, hey, this ain't no BS. This is what I live for, and this is what I believe in, and I would die for this game. And so that's kind of instilled in me, and transitioned over into my game. Be able to outwork anybody and be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Coming up next, we're talking about the NCAA's name, image, and likeness laws and how that's going to affect athletes coming up. See you soon. Hey, we're back with Kash Daniel. We got to talk NCAA name, image, and likeness laws. Let's just dive right on in. Why do you think you would have been a millionaire if this came out a few years ago?
Back in those days when we were, so in 2018 when we were beating everybody, we were rolling high, we were 10-3. The vibe was immaculate, around Lexington. Everybody wanted to be a part of the football team, and everybody wanted to be a part of everybody.
You guys were rock stars.
Literally, it was nuts, dude. I could have so many stories that would take up all this show, but. I think that the way that I represented myself as an athlete at the time, I think for me being a Kentucky kid and wanting to be able to being from Kentucky and Kentucky products and companies and other people from Kentucky, I wanted to make Kentucky cool. There's not we got bluegrass, we got basketball.
Make Kentucky cool again.
Yeah, make Kentucky cool again. That's basically what my sales pitch would have been if I would have been able to approach companies and then be able to, pay me for some services. But this has changed everything, man. From the way that we look at college athletics is now over with. The standard of, sign your scholarship, you come in, you get your stipend check here and there. No, these guys are allowed to go out and make as much money as they want to. They're allowed to have signings. They're allowed to promote themselves. They're allowed to work with other
These guys are
companies.
major brands now.
Literally,
Brian and I were talking
that's
about
what they are. So when you come in and you start building up your own personal brand, and now they're able to capitalize off that. It's going to turn it up on its head. You already see that with the Alabama quarterback, what Nick Saban said at SEC Media Days. He said that the guy's not even taking a snap yet, and he's already bankrolling close to 7 figures in endorsement deals. So it would have been a pretty exciting time if we'd had that back then. That's for sure.
Well, that Livy Dunn girl, she's a gymnast from LSU, she's got over 5 million followers across her social media platforms. They say she's going to make millions even just in this first year.
Yeah, she had signs all over Times Square.
Massive. Right, her and the Cavender twins, who they actually went to the same high school as me, funny enough. But these kids are going to start making very serious money. And personally, I think it's about time. These colleges have been profiting off of student athletes for years and years and years, while a lot of them kind of get nothing in the end. Maybe they finish their education, but I thought they kind of profited off of them without giving them too much of an advantage.
Yeah, they're not just amateurs anymore, like we talked about. They're big brands.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of scary. But I think it's also something you jump into, and you're adults.
Yeah,
you sign up for your student loans, you sign up to be a part of these colleges, you sign up to be a part of these sponsorship deals.
Right.
So it's time for you to figure out your brand. This is your business.
Yeah, you have to be. And one thing I was telling a lot of people, so a lot of guys that were on the team that I played with, when this first got announced, they came to me since I would do a lot of work with local companies. Now I'm out of the NCAA. Yeah. So I work with, a credit union. I work with a couple car dealerships and restaurants here and there. And so they're asking me what should we do? What should I do? This and that. I'm like, well, first off, the first thing you got to do is have people in your corner that know how to help and have your best interest at heart. Because there's a lot of people that's going to jump in just at the fact that you're not allowed to make money off this, and they're going to want a piece of the pie too. But at the same time, you got to know what fits your brand and what fits your style. Don't just partner up with anybody just because they throw out a dollar amount at you. It may not fit who you are, and if you're trying to push off something that you're not, I think that it takes away the authenticity. So I think it's more important to stay authentic and true to yourself in this time rather than chasing the dollar.
Do you feel like they need to add more people to these compliance offices? And how is that going to work? Because it seems like these kids are just it seems like I might just get a slap on the wrist if they say no later, but I'm just going to go for it.
I think there is going to be a crackdown on, being able to put out a guideline, of how they do certain things. I know the University of Kentucky sent out a 2-page guideline, of what athletes are and aren't allowed to do still, what they're allowed to promote, what they're not allowed to promote, and things like that. Obviously, alcohol, tobacco being one that they can't promote. I actually met with the compliance office. I'm in works with, it's not an agency, but we're going to try to help these kids with more NIL deals and help them understand what exactly it is, what they're getting themselves into, and making sure, like I said, they have the right people in their corner, and I'm the right person to have in your corner if you're a UK athlete. So it's going to be an exciting time. I've met with the compliance office, making sure all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed before we jump into this thing. But, the university themselves cannot help these kids at all. They can't go to them and say, hey, help me get pushed by this, help me get pushed by that. No, it is all on you now. They are not allowed to touch any of that. And ultimately, I think it's going to keep a lot of guys that were thinking about leaving college to go to the draft a year early. Now they're going to stay and be able to say, hey, I don't have to leave college to go help my family, send some money back for them. I can stay right here and make a couple $1 million and be just fine.
But something I think every football team needs, I only played Division II football, but we had these life classes, so we learned about how to buy a home, build credit, all this kind of stuff. It's only going to be beneficial to these kids because a lot of them just, you're not going to make it to the NFL. Like, it's very slim. And I know you've been trying to make it to the NFL too. Like, you know how hard, how hard it is.
And it'd be good for people like, guys like me that, had NFL aspirations and would be able to make a couple dollars in college that they can save on and bank off of, if the pros don't work out. And so, but luckily for me, I did have a couple t-shirt signings and things after the fact when I got done playing. So I did a good job of saving that money and, working in media now. So it's all good, baby. It's all good.
I wish we could gift you another year of eligibility so you can make that.
If I would have redshirted, man, I would. If I would have redshirted, I'd have been fine. I'd have been playing this year.
Coming up next, Kash Daniel is going to be on the hot seat for the 40-second shot clock. We'll see you in a minute. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. Welcome back to Breakaway. This is the 40-second shot clock. In the hot seat, Kash Daniel. Rapid fire questions. We're starting 3, 2, 1, go. Favorite sport other than football?
Baseball.
Favorite sports team?
The Cleveland Browns.
You went pro in another sport other than football, what would it be?
Baseball.
Who is the greatest linebacker of all time?
Ray Lewis.
Ooh. If you could give up either hunting or fishing for the rest of your life, which would you choose?
I'd give up hunting.
Ooh.
You can choose one company to do a sponsorship deal with. Who is it?
Qdoba.
Who's your role model?
My role model, my father.
You can go hunting with one person, historical or present. Who do you choose?
Brett Favre.
What's your dream car?
New Chevy Silverado.
How many years before Texas or Oklahoma win the SEC?
20.
Last one, biggest animal you've ever hunted?
White-tailed deer.
And boom, that's a 40-second shot clock. Well done. Thanks for being here. Producer Brian.
Mike's all around. Mike's all around.
And that's a wrap. Kash Daniel, thanks for joining us. Producer Brian, always a good time. Make sure you join us next week to meet another sports star for an authentic, unwoke sports conversation you won't hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this episode so we can keep the conversation going all week. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway.